Takže ještě jednou dobré ráno, dámy a pánové. Jsem velmi rád, že vás mohu přivítat na druhém dni vodíkového fóra H2 Fóra 2025. Po včerejším úspěšném prvním dni,
After
kdy
yesterday,
jsme
which was a successful
u
first day of our event when we welcomed more than 170 participants, it was clear that the second day is not going to have such a dynamic participation, but that's due to the social evening that we had yesterday, and it's understandable. But let's hope more people will join us in the course of the day, and we look forward to a lively discussion in two blocks. I will be the host of the first block, which is called Block A, and which focuses on international cooperation. A part of the presentation is going to be in English, held in English, so if you are not certain and want to have the translation, you can use the headsets that are ready. And we are going to have two sessions today. The first one is about European projects and our effort to learn from good practice and to find inspiration. Our goal is also to introduce the Interreg projects with Czech stakeholders who are active here and who deal with hydrogen, create efficient synergies so that everything works well and that the outputs from those projects that are being generated can be used as a synergy. In the second block, and the member of European Parliament, Kateřina Konečná, should join us in the second block, should focus on the inspiration from abroad. And there are some foreign colleagues from Germany and Poland here who are going to present their activities that they are developing, and we are going to talk on a cluster level. And I will be very grateful for that if our discussion is very lively and fruitful. Then we will have a coffee break after the first block. We will also have some accompanying activities in this break. You can taste hydrogen water and you can even inhale hydrogen in the break. And there were many people queuing yesterday, so please be there on time because there are many people interested in those activities. But before we begin, let me involve one extraordinary aspect of our first block. I think we are very optimistic here, and it is something to do with the Saxony cooperation with the hydrogen cluster from Saxony and the economic board, which is the coordinator of the hydrogen platform of the Usti region, and we are going to sign a declaration on mutual cooperation. And I would like to ask Frederick Vivece, who's the head of Research and Transfer Center for Saxony, and the representatives of the Usti of the region of Usti, Mrs. Gabriela Nekolová, and we will sign the declaration. Maybe ladies first. Gabriela, I would like to ask your signature first. The declaration is in Czech and English, so we both understand the wording of the declaration, and we confirm the interest in this declaration, interest for further cooperation, as well as our interest to build on our future common projects and further develop and reinforce our cooperation in the future. And Frederick is now signing the agreement, and I believe the signature is not just a formal act. I believe that based on our common communication, we can really look forward to very interesting common projects in the future. So thank you very much for this procedure, for signing the declaration. Colleagues, I have to apologize that I can't stay here. Colleagues, I apologize. I apologize to Frederick and all the others because, well, let's hope that we will develop our long-term cooperation. But unfortunately, I can't participate in this discussion with you because I have to be in the hall next door and I'm going to be the host of some panel discussions there. So I really apologize for not being able to stay here with you and I wish you a lot of success. I hope that today's negotiations are going to be very successful.
Maybe Frederick, if you want to say something.
Možná Frederik chce něco zmínit. Musíte zapnout mikrofon.
Check. Okay, sounds good. Thank you very much for making that happen. I do believe in that kind of formalities and paperwork to be necessary, especially if we're in such a good and close neighborship as we are with our partners here in the Usti region. But however, I think it's still good to finally put some paperwork behind our ongoing cooperation, and I'm really looking forward on behalf of our members and our association to strengthen our ongoing cooperation in the next months and years. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your work. Děkuji vám. Tak věřím, že přestože tohle bylo velmi příjemné.
Thank you very much. This was quite an agreeable beginning of this day. Ladies and gentlemen, I believe that there are many nice things to come as well. But now I will join a much more comfortable role and I pass the role of host to my colleague Minařík, who's going to be the moderator of the Interreg Projects blog. And Daniel, you have the floor. Thank you very much, Karel. I want to welcome all of you and wish you a beautiful morning. Thank you for the introduction, but once again, my name is Minařík, and I think I've met many of you already, and we are in touch. I've met you, and we experienced hydrogen together, starting on the scientific level, but up to the political level as well, with many of you. So I hope that this experience gave me enough know-how and information to be able to host this opening session and discuss some projects that are linked to hydrogen. And of course, many regions, and not just our hydrogen regions, develop their own activities. Before inviting all the participants to the stage, I wanted to say one thing. How did it happen that we started working on this topic? We were involved in Interreg projects, and there was a goodwill and effort of the Ministry of Industry and Trade. And in the working group for hydrogen valleys, this idea emerged, and we discussed how many regions, how many hydrogen valleys are there, and how many colleagues participate on this topic. And we discussed all the hydrogen projects, and we just mentioned some ideas how to help each other and how to get inspiration from each other. So I just hope that people who are responsible for Interreg projects like to hear this. We are going to focus on the meaning of those projects, and we want to mention the examples of good practice from the individual regions. And we also want to present the examples of good practice in the Czech Republic and present it to other European colleagues. Let me welcome the first guest, Karel Tichý, who already is seated here. He is going to represent the project H2C. We'll come back to that. I'll just mention the abbreviation H2CE, but of course each name of the project expresses the topic of hydrogen that it deals with. And now I would like to ask other colleagues to join us on stage. I would like to ask Miloš Prokýšek on stage, who represents the project HYDROMUN and came from České Budějovice to us, from Budweis. Good morning.
Tak, dále budeme pokračovat Zdeňkem.
The next one is Zdeněk Hanzal, who is in charge of two projects, Project INDEET and HyEfRe.
Tak, pojďme dál. Teď nechám posadit, jak se říká, růži.
And now the rose among the thorns. I would like to welcome Lenka Mansfeldová from the region of Karlovy Vary, who represents the project HyBaBo. Good morning.
Tak, pan kolega Josef Drázský.
Our colleague Josef Drázský came from Pardubice, so he's probably the farthest participant today who had to drive far, and his project is called HG2M. Good morning.
No a já se zhostím té role
And I'll have the role of both a moderator and a participant at the same time for the Moravian Silesian region, and the project is called UNIFHY. So I think we can take a seat and start the discussion. Just for my colleagues, but I believe that it is not really necessary, but I'll be very brief. I'm just going to mention what the individual projects Interreg mean. I think that the expression Interreg project is not an unknown word to you. It is about some, let's say, softer projects. Their objective is mainly to join the entire Europe in the ideal case and join some teams and experts with know-how and shorten the chains of transition and transmission of good practice. So this is something that we see in the Interreg projects. We see that the examples of good practice should serve to the purpose that the paperwork as well as the business area, because business is quite usually a close partner for our Interreg project, that both spheres like the administration and the business sphere get enough information so that we can, in the ideal case, save some money and provide a good setting for our system. And from our point of view, we also deal with the education and training, maybe even on a political level, so that the topic of hydrogen can be spread even further and bring in new capacity, so that we can be able to get to those examples of good practice from other countries. When we prepared the entire panel, we decided that there should be some logical follow-up. We talked about the abbreviations first, so maybe it would be nice to hear from all the participants what the name of their project actually means, and maybe some ideal objectives of their individual project as well, and then we will continue with the examples of good practice. So my first question goes to Karel Tichý, to H2C. Maybe you could tell us a few sentences, maybe very briefly, but we have enough time, don't worry, so that you can sum up the core, the gist of your project before we get more specific.
Thank you. First of all, I will slightly correct you. It's not pronounced H2C, although it might be interesting. It's pronounced H2CE. And now it may be clearer already, because it's hydrogen in CE, in Central Europe. And this is a program from which this project is funded, so Hydrogen Central Europe. The whole title of the project is Empowering H2-Ready Regions in Central Europe. So it's about boosting, supporting regions that are getting ready for the hydrogen future in the area of Central Europe. Those of us who have had some experience with the Central Europe program will know that it covers quite a large area, and sometimes we may think about whether it's still Central Europe because it goes to Italy, for example. And I'm very glad that I can also welcome representatives of the lead partner of the project, Mr. Brose. I'm really glad that Pedro is here with us. He's the lead partner. The lead partner is an organization called Joint Spatial Development Brandenburg, which is a development agency of the Brandenburg state. And since we have this development agency, we have a partner that feels the urgency of the hydrogen topic. I would like to inform you about the objectives of our project. The project has specific working packages. There are 3 main packages that we have, and they are quite logical. The first working package focuses on the ability of regions to work with data regarding hydrogen, renewable energy sources, and the potential of the regions. Space for preparation of regional analyses, and ideally, the individual regions should prepare their own regional hydrogen strategies. And we, the Usti region, which was the first to come up with the regional hydrogen strategy in 2022, appreciate this, because we think that the process of preparing the strategy raises many questions, and the region will realize whether this is the right direction for the given region. The second scope of activities is the working package 2. I'm not going to go into detail, but it focuses on development of tools. And Dan, you would probably be interested in this. And I think that in our internal cooperation, we should look more closer at this package. It creates tools allowing an efficient work with data. And it goes very deep in the topic. Within the project, we created a specific tool allowing to analyze the territory of a given region and to uncover the regional hydrogen potential. And I will finish by working package number 3. But this is the closest topic to the Economic Council, because this is a topic that we are responsible for. We lead this package, and this working package focuses on something that I think might be one of the primary synergies that we should develop. It focuses on development of Central European network of hydrogen stakeholders. That's one level. So it creates larger platforms of cooperating players who will know about each other, and they may be willing to cooperate on something. And the second level of this working package is an online solution, an online mirror of this platform. Apart from sharing best practices and information among the shareholders, it should also be a source of tips, documents and materials. It should provide space for sharing ideas and sharing any other outputs produced by not only H2CE but also other projects. We would like to identify synergies and to create a data bank of experts and projects that can be further developed in future. So much about our project H2CE. Thank you. You finished by developing the capacities. We are in the Usti region, but how did this evolve? Because all of these projects are projects led by consortia, by European consortia. Can you tell us how you started, how you looked for your partners in the very beginning? Yesterday, I really appreciated the open atmosphere, so I will remain open. The genesis of this project was quite hard, and Pedro, who is sitting here with us, doesn't have an easy role because he joined the project ex post. Unfortunately, he was not there when the project started to be prepared. It was prepared by a female colleague who already left this institution. So this was the initial idea, and it was partially lost on the way. But quite a lot of people and all of the partners remember the initial idea. The idea and the objective was to reflect the European hydrogen strategy, boosting European hydrogen valleys, the importance of transition of the former coal regions. These were the main buzzwords that we were meeting every day. And we wanted to show a kind of a mirror to these buzzwords. But I assume that you looked at your hydrogen partners or friends, or did you use any specific support or help? I think that when you create an Interreg program, you never address enemies, that's clear. So first of all, you contact your friends, you follow up on some cooperation that you already have. That's a logical process. Okay, thank you. Now I hand over to Mr. Prokýšek. Could you please present the content and the motivation of your project HYDROMUN? Good morning. I will try to be brief. The title of the project, HYDROMUN, doesn't actually make sense because it originated at a time when the project was still being prepared, and the primary objective was to focus on municipalities. That's why hydrogen and municipalities, HYDROMUN. And we then saw that the indicators were not fulfilled and that we should mostly focus on small and medium-sized enterprises. So we slightly changed the scope and the focus of the project, but we kept the title. So that is how the title was formed. And South Bohemia and the Pilsen region, unlike Usti and Ostrava, for example, just starts with hydrogen. And based on the experience from other projects, we decided to start with a soft project. And it creates the necessary network and it raises topics. And if we manage to build a strong community, we will then continue with more technical, harder projects. But without a community, it doesn't make much sense. So that's a very easy type of a project. Okay, so we could say that in the case of your region, HYDROMUN is a pilot type of a project because you want to establish a network. Would you like foreign partners to join as well? Well, yes, of course. Knowledge of the partners is very weak, and this is a cross-border project, so we cooperate with Bavaria and the Pfalz region. And the awareness about hydrogen is not very high. So we bring light to the darkness, let's say. Okay, great, thank you. Now I'm handing over to Zdeněk Hanzal. You represent two projects here. So you will see Zdeněk twice during this panel. And you will represent INDEET and HyEfRe. Exactly. I have to apologize for the absence of my colleague. He was supposed to come with me, but we have an international meeting regarding the INDEET project in Slovakia, so we had to split. But I will try to present both of the projects briefly. The project INDEET is supported by Interreg DANUBE region, and HyEfRe is supported by Interreg Central Europe. So the two projects are supported from different programs. HyEfRe is a project relating to the cultivation of the local and regional support of hydrogen and the use of waste heat. And INDEET focuses on the use of excess energy produced from renewable energy sources. For example, through electrolysis that then leads to production of hydrogen or storing energy in batteries, E2Grid system. The second project does not focus only on green hydrogen, but mainly on storage of excess energy through hydrogen as a medium. And I am from the development agency of South Bohemia, and as has been said by my colleague from the South Bohemian University, the level of work with green hydrogen is still very low in the Czech Republic, and we have no previous experience, unlike the Usti or Karlovy Vary regions. And when we were asked whether we would like to participate in the projects, we could see that there were some pilot projects already running, and we should focus on some practical examples. And for this reason, we thought that it could be a good way to start working on this topic, because our main role will be to transfer some information to our international partners, and we would get some new information from foreign countries, and we would know how to start developing this topic in the Czech Republic, how to establish more partnerships. Okay, I understand. So both of these projects are more technical. And my question is, it could be interesting for our audience. What is the percentage of fulfilling the objectives of your project, or where are you currently? Where are you standing currently? You mentioned the two technical topics here.
Well, in both of the projects, we are about in 2/5 of the implementation. And now the moment comes when we should finalize the first outputs of the projects. I mean, the collection of examples of good practice, and we also carried out an analysis of legal system and legislation. At the same time, we carried out an analysis of acceptance factors and also how the society sees this topic. So this is our work for the coming months. We need to evaluate the data coming from other countries, and we want to make a comparison and come up with a conclusion that will show what the regions are doing at this moment. Okay, thank you very much. And now I would like to ask the rose among the thorns, which is our Lenka Mansfeldová, if she could explain the very funny acronym for me, HyBaBo. Well, the abbreviation HyBaBo means Hydrogen Region Bavaria Bohemia. Our lead partner on the Czech side is the Economic Chamber of the Karlovy Vary region, and at the same time we have many partners on the Czech side, as well as partners from the Karlovy Vary region, and on the Bavarian side we have some lead partners among university, Oberheidweiten und Hochschule. And on Bavarian side, we have many other partners, such as, for example, councils and economic chambers. So this is quite a large project, a Czech-German project, but there are many partners involved on both sides, in both countries, that represent both the public and the private sector. Our project, well, the ambition is to create a common hydrogen concept, cross-border concept, we are working on right now, and we are preparing some model studies for the production and usage of hydrogen in specific plants for specific companies. We cooperate with the institute in Řeš, and we hope that this is going to serve as an example of good practice for other companies as well. And of course, there is the area of education and networking. We organize many workshops and conferences within our project, and this applies to both Czech and German side. And of course, we visit workshops on both sides of the border, and we draw inspiration from those events. There are also some study trips, and they are used quite often, and there is a lot of interest in those study trips, where we present hydrogen technologies in Bavaria. And those study trips are intended for representatives of companies, municipalities, but also for students. So we quite often bring students from grammar schools and technical schools so that they get to know hydrogen technologies. And there is also an education campaign which we are preparing currently, but we want to inform the public so that the public does not have any concerns regarding hydrogen. Okay, that's nice to hear. It's nice to hear this thesis or idea, because up to now we mentioned hydrogen valleys or hydrogen regions in the Czech Republic that are actually focusing on their own municipality area. But here, your project shows that we can see hydrogen valleys that are cross-border valleys, cross-border regions, and which also try to allocate the capacity to an area, not just as a formal area or formal region. But we also have some examples like this from Poland, where the hydrogen valley does not respect the borders of the voivodství in Poland, but the projects respect the capacities of the region. And of course, there has to be a leader in this given hydrogen valley, but this is also a definition or expression of the term hydrogen valley, which doesn't have to be really strictly connected to a municipality only. Now, Mr. Drázský, who's going to present the project, and I hope that this is going to be an English abbreviation, so GH2M, right? Thank you for the floor. Exactly, that's right. We always talk about GH2M in official meetings, but when we talk to my colleagues in the Czech Republic or Slovakia, we just pronounce it in Czech, we just say H2M. But the name of the project is an abbreviation of Accelerated Deployment of Green Hydrogen in regions. It's not really easy, but it's about green mobility in regions and development of this mobility with focus on green hydrogen in the regions of European Union. You asked about our project at the beginning, how it was established. Well, at the beginning it was quite interesting to join the project, because in our Pardubice region we didn't really know much about hydrogen in 2023. We visited an event in Stockholm organized by Interreg Europe, and I think it was the second call at the time, and there were maybe 500, 800 people participating in this event. And we met a project manager from Greece. And we already knew her from a different Interreg project. And she asked us, oh, how are you doing? What are you doing? Do you plan any new Interreg projects? And I said, well, maybe we could prepare something. And she said, well, we are preparing a hydrogen project. Would you like to join? And she said, we need a partner for that. And the condition of the project is to join various partners, various countries from the European Union, and they didn't have anyone from Eastern Europe at the time. So that's why she asked and addressed us. And when we returned from this event in Stockholm, we said that this is going to be quite a challenge, because hydrogen strategy was not really mentioned in our regional strategy, which had 250 pages, but there was no mention of hydrogen. So we saw this as a challenge to push through any hydrogen, not just this specific green hydrogen in our region, which didn't know much about hydrogen at the time. So we joined the project and we had no idea what to expect, to be very honest. And in order to present you the activities of our project, well, of course, the core is the exchange of examples of good practice. And I have to say, our partner from Drenthe in the Netherlands is excellent. This is really a source of inspiration for all of us, the beginners in the hydrogen area. And we can all learn from the Netherlands here. Absolutely great. I think there is a lot of inspiration in the Netherlands, not just for your project partners, but also for the entire Czech Republic and our hydrogen valleys. Thank you very much. And I'm here as a representative of the project UNIFHY from the Moravian-Silesian region. And I'm going to join the projects that want to improve some policies. And by policy, I mean, just as in emerging projects or strategies of emerging projects, is also this hydrogen policy in the Moravian-Silesian region. Hydrogen is mentioned there, and we want to focus on developing the action plan. The strategy in the Moravian-Silesian region, of course, mentions hydrogen, but not in depth. There was just some framework for this with some main common objectives. But what should be the ideal lineup of this project in the next 5 years? Well, for us it was logical that just like colleagues from other projects, we want to find inspiration in other countries, and we want to join the regional municipality and exchange information with other partners. I think when an office, an institution doesn't work well, it is a disaster. But why do institutions fail? Because they don't have enough information. And my colleagues confirmed this to me, that there are some departments in various institutions that deal with hydrogen. Yes, that's true. But from my point of view, we need to join forces and bring in some colleagues, for example, from the Ministry of Environment, so that we can join forces. And in the system of state administration, there will be some contact persons that are going to be in charge of various projects here. So this is our objective of the project UNIFHY. And also an explanation of this abbreviation is unification. You can hear it there. So this is what the European Commission liked. And then procedure, technical and action planning in the development of renewable hydrogen. So UNIFHY. We also prepared an act on low-emission gas that's been developing, and I would even say that our portfolio of partners in this project is very balanced. And when you mentioned that your Greek colleague wanted to find an eastern partner, they knew that Pardubice region is in the east. That's probably why they chose you, huh? And no, I just wanted to say that we really are in the middle of Europe and a part of this hydrogen Europe. After yesterday, we also consider giving a clear signal, because we see that a part of Europe sees hydrogen not just as a technological idea, but as a new profession, a new mode of living. And in our region and in the Czech Republic, we can find inspiration, as well as the Lublinsky Voivodství in Poland. And those were the early adopters in this sense of the word. So much for my project, and I think that we could hear a wide portfolio of projects. And when you realize this, what the character of the projects is, that they sometimes began as strategic projects and they developed into technological projects. It's quite interesting. So let's move on now, and let's hope that we can give you a specific context now. We've mentioned the methodology of projects several times, and I would be really grateful if we could discuss what the colleagues learned in the course of their projects and what they usually offer for their project, what they offer to the European Union, for example. And in order to make this idea more tangible, and you've heard it before, that there are some processes of examples of good practice that are being exchanged. And I would like to show you what the Moravian Silesian region wants to offer to Europe. When you see this recommendation, and maybe you don't know that, on our website, for example, in the individual Interact project categories, because we mentioned Central Europe, Interact Danube region, maybe something else as well, maybe I forgot something. But on the website, you can usually see a section called Good Practice. And it is really useful to take a look at that for your motivation so that you see what is happening in Europe. Yes, Moravian Silesian region, of course, has many things to offer as well and can be a part of this European list of good practice. But we have also this low-cost filling station, and this is also concerned with the station in Vítkovice, the company called Vítkovice AS, which is active in Ostrava and creates the basic infrastructure there. And of course, that's why we can discuss hydrogen in the Moravian Silesian region. And this filling station is important for us because it should be, well, not cheap, but it should be low cost. It should enable the regions that they shouldn't just discuss hydrogen and talk about it, but they should really be involved in the usage of hydrogen. And what we also offer, and you probably know that close to Ostrava, there is another filling station in Rybník, in this town, which is active or has been active for almost 2 years. And this is also an example of good practice that we suggested, because it is the closest filling station to us. And we think that we will bring the individual partners to Rybník and start a partnership. And we already cooperate with Ostrava, represented by the Moravian Silesian Hydrogen Cluster, and the municipality of Rybník. And then also another idea of an example of good practice that we also mention quite often is application of the MOSAR method. I believe that you don't know this expression, but the MOSAR technology is something taken over from nuclear plants in France. Maybe you already have an idea now. And this is a technology that deals with risks especially. And this technology, I think Karel Borovec is here, who is the representative of the Scientific Research Center in the Báňská University. And what's the reason for this cooperation? Well, we talk about hydrogen in a technical sense of the word, but we are also interested in the concept of hydrogen as such, and we don't want our society to be let down. We don't want to give up on society. We don't want to make any mistakes when developing Hydrogen Valley. That would cause some mistrust towards hydrogen. So those were the things that we are offering to the world. And in the second round, I'm going to mention the good practice that we identified so far, which will be good for the transition for us. So now, let's start at the end with me. So Josef, maybe you could interpret or describe what you did within your processes. And of course, the processes can differ in individual projects. So what would you like to offer or discuss? Or maybe you can jump right into what you brought to us.
Within our project, from the point of view of the Pardubice region, it's mainly about getting familiar with this information, because we are listener in the project. Physically, we do not have any material best practice that we could offer to the other partners. Yes, okay, within the region there is Iveco producing hydrogen-driven buses, but the lead partner is in Italy. But in Vysoké Mýto, it's all just in the very beginning. We cannot show the others how hydrogen buses are produced. So from this perspective, we like to visit the partners that have a more advanced technology. This is one of the things that is so great about this type of projects, because if you have a partner who already has some experience, you have an advantage, because he will tell you what you should focus on and what you should also avoid. Can you give us a specific example? For example, when we visited the Drenthe region, when we visited the Dutch partner, we could see that during the transition to the hydrogen region, in fact, Drenthe is the first hydrogen valley in Europe, they had to test how hydrogen would be used in practice. And they did something that I can't imagine in the Czech Republic. The region gave them the money. He said, okay, let's go for hydrogen and test it, and we will see what works and what doesn't work. I can't imagine that we would take this approach in the Czech Republic, but they really adopted this approach and they told us, look, for example, we use hydrogen for waste trucks, and it works very efficiently. It doesn't produce any noise, and hydrogen is produced using electrolysis just next to our headquarters. They also used hydrogen for heating, and they were the pioneers in this area. And they said, okay, this did not prove to be very efficient. This is not the area where we would like to develop. So we would rather focus on mobility. We can see a potential of hydrogen there in the towns. Okay, well, that's interesting to also hear something about the approach. You are saying that they are so financially developed that they can establish a playing field to test the technologies. Perhaps it would be a good idea that could be introduced in our projects, but it's much harder with the funding. Thank you very much, Lenka. The Karlovy Vary region is perceived as a region significantly developing hydrogen. I don't want to force you to say what you would like to offer, but let's look at the best practice that you want to find and what kind of discussions you have developed with your partners. I think that our project helped start the discussion about hydrogen in the Karlovy Vary region. We used the experience of the Moravia-Silesia region, and we talked about it already during the first hydrogen forum. Back then, Karlovy Vary didn't have enough experience, and we talked about it with the governor of our region, with the council, and everyone was slightly concerned about the topic of hydrogen. And we are also in close contact with economic chambers in Germany. So we started discussing this topic, and then someone proposed the idea of this cross-border project. We did not hesitate at all, and we joined the project because in Germany, close to our border in Munsiedl, it's actually a town that is a model town for the whole of Germany, because they are self-sufficient, they have renewable energy sources, and they also have hydrogen economy. And this project is called Munsiedl Weg. And they started with this idea already in 2009. And since then, they have intensively worked on this topic, and they have also engaged municipalities as well as businessmen, but also citizens. They also organized, or they built panels on rooftops. They have a battery storage, a biogas plant, but also an electrolyzer with the biggest power in Germany. And they were a huge inspiration for us. And this is where we bring any interested people to see if they are interested in the hydrogen topic. But thanks to this project, we also consolidated quite a lot of the projects that were being prepared in the Karlovy Vary region. During the initial conference, we established a network of all entities interested in hydrogen, all the entities that started preparing their projects. And as has been said, already there is one project of a hydrogen center near the town of Aš, where they test blending of hydrogen, and we also convinced the town, but also the citizens and the businesses to join this project. And there is also another interesting project that is being prepared by the HEB industrial zone. It is a photovoltaic power plant. And they would like to store energy into hydrogen and to transform it back and to use it in production. We also have the first car service for hydrogen cars in the Czech Republic. We have Toyota Auto Eder, which has Toyota Mirai, and they funded this car service shop, and they also prepare a filling station. In Ostrov, we are preparing a park with hydrogen economy, and this park would also like to engage local businesses. So I think that we also can be a source of inspiration for others. We have something to offer now. And I appreciate that we provided a network for all of the shareholders who can inspire each other, motivate each other. Okay, that's a nice contribution. And Zdeněk, you have opened very specific topics relating to hydrogen. Could you give us an overview of best practice that you would like to adopt or import? Well, to start, I would like to say that South Bohemia is a nice region that has no chemical or petrochemical industry. So there is no need to discuss hydrogen in relation to industry. In our projects, we do not only focus on hydrogen, but we focus also on clean mobility, on storage of energy, for example, in batteries. And the overviews of best practice that we showed were more related to e-mobility. But when speaking about hydrogen, we could mention the town of Hranice in the Karlovy Vary region, or there are hydrogen buses in Mníšek pod Brdy. I think that before the end of this year, these buses should start operation. And in South Bohemia, according to the map of hydrogen in the Czech Republic, we have three projects of electrolyzers, one of them in Písek, one in Midlovary, and one in Tábor. Midlovary is the oldest environmental burden in our region, and this site is already covered, and it was discussed what to do with it. And VGD is now focusing on this site, and they would like to build a solar power plant in the location. And of course, this also relates to the idea of building an electrolyzer. We don't know what they would do with the hydrogen afterwards, but we will see whether we can establish some contacts with them to know what their plans are. When we talked to certain entities about hydrogen, especially when speaking about transportation, either towns or private companies, we can see that they cannot buy hydrogen buses because they have no funds for that. So we said that we should probably wait for some more time because we cannot just force the entities to develop. And as for best practice from abroad, I think that the vehicle-to-grid system is very important. This is not developed in the Czech Republic, and quite few people know that if you charge your vehicle from your home, that it also weighs the other way around. For example, that you could charge your passive house using your e-car. You would leave 15% for your journey to the office, where you would again recharge your vehicle. It seems to be a utopia, and there are certainly some areas in the Czech Republic where you can do it like that. Of course, not on the peripheries of cities, but it can make some sense. So this is an idea that has a great potential for transfer. And as for hydrogen, there are some decentralized filling stations on the German motorway network. It was presented by our colleagues from Bavaria. They would like to build solar farms there that would produce hydrogen on site. They would store it, and this would be an opportunity for refueling hydrogen trucks. And one last example, since one of our projects is from Interreg Danube, the Danube region, and it also includes the Balkan countries, we had interesting best practice from Montenegro. They can see a big potential in renewable sources, especially solar panels and wind energy. And for them, hydrogen is a way to become self-sufficient because currently they are dependent on Serbia, but politically it doesn't make any sense anymore. Okay, thank you. Thanks a lot. And České Budějovice is a place where everyone would like to live in the Czech Republic. So hydrogen is another reason proving this, I would say. Miloš, you have a similar task. Where is your project heading? What would you like to import to the Czech Republic? I think that there is a close link to the Karlovy Vary region. We could hear about many business activities, and I assume that this is best practice. And you also told us that there was some shift in the title, but also in the project.
Well, first of all, I would like to say that the cooperation with Wohnsiedel, with the company SGM, is absolutely excellent. That's a company active in Wohnsiedel, and this is absolutely perfect. This is the very first partner from Germany in our Interreg projects where I really feel good about the cooperation. There are not many conflicts or obstacles. Well, my colleague mentioned that South Bohemia is not really a region of chemical plants and productions. So this is a region with ponds and woods, and the structure is different there. Even for us, the hydrogen technology is different here. We really have to think smaller here. Maybe smaller electrolyzers, have some islands of production. And what we miss most is data. We don't have a lot of credible information, available information that we can build on in our case studies. Even though the electrolyzer in Wunsiedel is a part of our project, or the company that operates the electrolyzer works there in Wunsiedel, but we can't get to the data, and this is quite an issue for us because we expected that from the very beginning of the project, but then we were not allowed to get to the data. And of course we can tell you all how excellent the technology is, but we can't really prove it with the data. We can't document it. Next week, I'm going to go to Wunsiedel to see the son-in-law of the company owner in Wunsiedel, who has a small farm close to Regensburg, and I'm really interested to see what he can tell me. But I think in general we could say that small installations make much more sense to us, and let's hope that we can learn to spread the word even further. So this was about South Bohemia from us. But PSEC, I don't really think that we can start it this year, but okay, we can discuss it in the break together. Okay, I think that the data is an important issue for Karel as well and his project. So I expect that the examples of good practice that we would like to export or import are based on data, right, Karel? Oh, I have to correct my moderator mistake at the beginning. We work with Slido here, so you can ask your questions over Slido. So use this opportunity to ask questions over Slido so that Daniel doesn't have to do all the work here. Huh? So, Daniel, you know that you can ask me anything and I'm going to answer what I choose to answer. So let me allow to welcome the colleagues from the beautiful southern Bohemia, but we are going to the most beautiful region of the entire Czech Republic. And those who know me know that I don't have many skills, but I have one skill, that's sure, that I can connect people. And maybe this, what Mr. Hanzal mentioned, was quite absurd, that you have this question of what to do with hydrogen. I met Mr. Kafonek from Brno yesterday, and he wants to find green hydrogen for Brno. And of course, we know that the transport of hydrogen on long distances is linked to some issues with efficiency and capacity. But I think this is a beautiful consequence of an event like this one, that we can connect people and we can meet people who really don't know about each other. But in the end, when they get to know each other, they can really find a synergy and an opportunity for cooperation. So please try to meet this gentleman and maybe you can start something together. But now, coming back to the data issue that was mentioned here. When we entered the project, and of course I also want to mention the development of our project and the development of the cooperation with our partners. Well, when we entered the project, I don't know if Pedro Sigone can confirm this, but I don't want to really boast here too much, but I think we were the more experienced party when we began the project. We had some experience working on development of Hydrogen Valley, and one of the central topics was the need to set up a strategic framework in the region, some strategic planning, and of course networking of stakeholders. And due to our presence in this project, when we, at the negotiations and coordination meetings, we shared our experience, I think we contributed and served as inspiration for some of our partners, even though it was an unofficial level of this project. But maybe that's the most positive aspect for me from this project at all, because I see that the participating partners who were there from the very beginning, I see that their ideas developed significantly. I mean, our partners from Poland and Germany and our Croatian and Italian colleagues advanced as well a lot. And I think that the quality level is completely different after 2 years. of the ongoing project. So what topics should we involve? What questions should we ask when we want to develop hydrogen economy that is based on renewable hydrogen? The work with data, and I'm very happy that other colleagues mentioned this as well, other colleagues from Interreg project, this is absolutely the basis. It's absolutely essential to have data, and this is what we saw yesterday as well. If we want to force the state administration to be even more active, the state administration needs high-quality data. The data needs to be supplied continuously, and the procedure of getting the data should be clear and transparent. So that's why I'm grateful for any tool in the scope of our project, because the tools can be transferred independently of the regions where they are used. And I think in this respect, it is also something that we would like to share on our online collaboration platform as well. And I think we don't have to use this procedure ad hoc in other Interreg regions, Interreg projects, but it could be used in other projects that you prepare for the coming years. We, as the Economic and Social Council of the Usti region, and I feel this from my colleagues as well, that we are always trying to think beyond the scope. This is our approach. We want to think beyond the scope of the project, beyond the scope of the activities and the actual implementation of the project. My previous experience with Interreg projects was that quite often those are nice projects, but their activity and the work on those projects is over with the deadline of the project. And the sustainability and efficiency and transferability of the tools is over with the deadline as well. But I think we want to go further than that, and I would like to see that in the future as well. Thank you very much, Karel, for this follow-up of our discussion. I'm just going to return to the Moravian-Silesian region and the UNIFHY project, and I'm going to be more specific. We've seen some initial phases of the project in our region, and let's say that we achieved maybe 40% of the project so far, and maybe 2 examples of good practice we would like to share here, and of course offer to others as well. Now, in this larger scope, not just in Interreg projects, but to all regions that are hydrogen active. But we were really interested to see the procedures in Spain, and I'm going to explain this. When you remember how decarbonization of transport in the Czech Republic started, it was also linked to a specific gas. Yes, it was natural gas, and CNG is a very well-known expression, CNG buses, for example. But maybe you remember what was before that. And LPG, it is still available nowadays, and our Spanish partners joined those 2 concepts. And maybe you will remember those alternative fuel times when we learned to integrate LPG in your cars. But in Spain, they chose the system, not that they knew how the Czech Republic is dealing with CNG, but in Spain, they wanted to connect CNG and hydrogen. So our ambition is, at least in the region of Extremadura, this is the border to Portugal. So there, they work on this good practice and develop it, where they want to raise the interest of local stakeholders, for example, car shops, car repair shops, so that they are not afraid of hydrogen and support the program of development and transformation of cars to hydrogen. But what's the point of this? Before we went there to Spain, we didn't realize all the context there, but the gist of it is really interesting. This approach is mainly about what is going to happen to cars that are older than 10 years. Well, if you buy a new car now, maybe in 4 to 5 years there is still a guarantee to this car and you don't have to touch your car at all, and maybe not even the next 5 years. But there is this idea that you should consider the cars that are 10 years and older, and maybe you don't care that much that someone drills a hole in part of your injector and works with hydrogen from then on. I think this is quite an interesting idea that we saw in Spain, and now we are considering it, how to use this ability of the Czech nation and technically skilled car mechanics so that they are not afraid of hydrogen. Now the question was what to do with the distribution of hydrogen, and in Spain we saw, well, they are quite mañana here in this respect. They don't really aim to have some centralized filling stations, but their method is of bottles that can be exchanged in the car shop. And this is how they deal with the distribution of hydrogen, and it can be done more efficient. And we can even reduce the price of the infrastructure for hydrogen distribution. So when you realize that, like this filling station on the compression capacity can work not only in the moment when the car passes by, but also when this business or a car shop optimizes their own operation by filling cylinder bottles. So this was quite interesting for me, the first thing. And the second example of good practice from Spain is, because we discuss it quite often, where two things. Yesterday we heard about a project, a Czech project. It was about 1,000 megawatt from renewable sources mentioned in this project, and we were really surprised to hear that. And when we came to Badajoz, which is a city of Extremadura region, we saw those huge energy plants. It is about 565 megawatt plant, and there are two of them. I know that in Germany there is not a finalized plant which should attain 650 megawatt in Germany, and it will be the largest in Europe. But let's get back to Spain now. And they have this holistic approach. We always try to bring this to Moravian Silesian region and our action planning in our hydrogen strategy. And in Spain, they showed us that they can answer the question, what regions should be funded directly by photovoltaics and production of energy. And in Spain, they decided that in the course of manufacturing energy, where you need the energy for your businesses and new investments, it can't be further from you than 5 kilometers. It should be really directly on the point. And they have a very detailed methodology that we can take over exactly as it is and apply it to our regions. And I think it could work really well. And we could begin where the Spanish colleagues already reached point 1, as we call it. But they already have this point 1 ready, and the methodology of the next 10 steps is prepared in detail already. It is about soil protection, etc., etc. And granularity is really very well described there. And they can explain to you why they don't work with square kilometers, but why they work with distances of 5 to 10 kilometers from your municipality. And this is an experience that we would like to understand and transfer to our regions in more detail. And of course, we can discuss it later during the break. But this was very interesting for us because we saw that we can find inspiration from the others who already have this experience and worked on that a lot.
řada, byť nepřímo, někdy i přímo vlastně
Now, we have heard a number of titles of your partners. Now, a question to everyone. In what manner do you involve or engage stakeholders? I think that if we make a survey here, you would probably say that some of you were already part of an INDEET project. And some of you would participate in a certain project. And this is probably why you are attending this section. So what are the tools to attract mainly the new partners? How do you motivate them? Who wants to start? I will start. And I suppose that my colleagues will then follow up. One of the main motives or arguments to motivate our partners in the region to join the projects is the large scope of the potential market and the opportunities offered to them. I very much appreciate the approach that has been applied within HyBaBo. There were some critical voices saying that a hydrogen valley cannot be delimited only geographically by the administrative border of a town, city, region, whatever, because it cannot work like that. You have got some value chains which cross the border. And one specific example is the Orlen Unipetrol. Decarbonization of Orlen means that we contribute to decarbonization of the whole Czech Republic. And the motivating factor for the partners to participate in projects and activities focusing on the cross-border area is mainly sharing best practice and learning lessons. I will follow up on this just very briefly. What is unique about our project is that we focus on the whole region, not only the Czech Republic, Bavaria, or South Bohemia and Bavaria, but it's also West Bohemia, Bavaria, and the Oberpfalz region. So we cover quite a large area, and the main partners are universities. Universities build credibility of the project, and this is important for many other partners. So the partners, when they see that it's a university that participates in the project, that it's not going to be only about suppliers, that they see that the project is credible enough, and this opens the door, and then it's quite easy to engage new entities. Yes, Miloš, but can you estimate the impact among the partners? So how many unique partners do you have? How many entities do you have in this project? Are these dozens of entities? Or do you just work with the knowledge database, the approach of face-to-face communication? Well, our aim is to have 100 involved partners, but the objectives have been fulfilled. So it shows that we have enough interest. But usually what works well is the word of mouth. That works very efficiently. And this is how we build community. Okay, thank you very much. And Miloš, you have mentioned indicators. So could we say, Zdeněk, what should be the outcome or output of your technical projects? But you can also mention the stakeholders if you wish. What I really liked was that Mr. Prokýšek spoke about credibility of the consortium. When we applied for the project, this was a very important aspect, because for us, the development agency, this was an absolutely new topic. So we could not be perceived as a technical partner, an expert partner. And the motivating factor was the structure, the composition of the consortium, because there were also people from public administration, representatives of municipalities, where the strategies would be verified. Or there were also different development agencies, technical institutes, but also energy institutes operating on the premises of universities, for example, in Lanžhot. Or, for example, the Johannes Kepler Institute in Linz. And based on the structure, on the composition of the consortium, you can then see that everyone can contribute, and this is the greatest asset of Interreg projects, boosting the whole ecosystem. In South Bohemia, we try to cooperate with various municipalities, with transportation companies, or with entities providing public services in transportation. For them, the hydrogen technology can be interesting. At the same time, we focus on e-mobility, which is more interesting for them because it's much more feasible. And we try to combine it with activities supported by grants. We bring soft projects, but we always try to link them to some investment money. And this is another added value for the partners or entities. And as for the partnership, I would like to say that in South Bohemia, we can feel that the partner in Linz is very important. We also want to look at other regions, Pilsen, Vysočina, or Usti, but we tend to forget that just a few kilometers from us, we have Linz, a very progressive city where we can learn a lot. So that's also very important for us. And as for KPIs in projects, since we are not the pilot region, we luckily do not have to focus so much on KPIs. We have the DANUBE INDEET project, which needs to be verified, but it will be done in Slovakia, Hungary, Slovenia, and Bosnia. All of the projects have a different focus. And you also mentioned work with data and interpretation of data. And in this area, we expect that in the 4th of 5 semesters, we should already have some data from the partners that we will be able to distribute in our region. We will say this is the business case and this is the technical background for it. And the activities of the project also try to establish a tool which would allow the municipalities to calculate whether it's an efficient business case or not. So networking is good, but if we bring technical data, it will bring more value. Okay, great, thank you very much. Karel, you seem that you want to respond. Yes, probably you already know about this activity, but you mentioned Austria, and it may be interesting for you that Austria now has the so-called Holy Grail, the large-scale hydrogen valley, which is funded from the partnership, and we are a partner of this project. In this project, there are about 50 different partners, so it's a huge challenge. We are in this project only a replication partner, but I can feel that this is a project that is really unique because of its scope. Its budget exceeds 500 million euros. And it looks at the production of hydrogen, developing pipelines, utilization in industry, purchasing hydrogen buses, and so on. So if you want to have contact to this project, I'm available. I will give it to you. I think it's very important to realize
lokálních love brandů
based on the local love brands, that if someone needs more information, it's good to contact us, those who are participating in the projects. Networking is very important. But there's also a working level there. And it's possible to get the relevant information quite fast if you know the relevant people. And if you scan the projects that are being demonstrated here, I think this is a very good way to establish partnership with the stakeholders. Lenka, you mentioned a number of entities or stakeholders that we already have in our region, but Czechs are rather skeptical, so I will try to rephrase my question. Could you tell me in what industries you search for stakeholders? I think that Karlovy Vary focuses on business mainly, but how would you convince someone who is skeptical that they should cooperate with us within the Interreg projects? How would you look for such stakeholders? We have no problems in this area. For us, it's quite easy to involve stakeholders in our region. And our primary focus is obviously business, because we are an economic chamber. We interconnected the largest energy company, Sokolovská uhelná, with one company in Vunzídl. And we have the information that they are preparing a joint project, but Sokolovská uhelná is still reluctant. They are saying that it doesn't make economic sense. And then we also involved experts from the Nuclear Institute in Řeš, and they are helping us to create models. If we have entities that are interested in something, we supported them using this project. So the Nuclear Institute in Řeš will help them calculate the economic aspects of their projects. The Nuclear Institute in Řeš has an electrolyzer, and I believe that they can provide relevant data to the entities, and they performed multiple studies already. And we believe that this will help the companies to decide, and we could see some partial results where they modeled various types of electrolyzers. And this will again be best practice for other companies. So we have been quite successful in involving partners, not only the official partners, but also other stakeholders. And our main focus is on businesses. I think that we have quite a lot to offer, so it's not an issue to get new stakeholders. Thank you very much. It's good to see that the full potential of the Karlovy Vary region has not been depleted, and we might involve you in softer activities as well. Josef, who were the most active stakeholders in your relevant case? How did you bring them to the project?
Well, the main stakeholder, the policymaker, is of course the administration of the region of Karlovy Vary, which is involved, of course. But we also involved some other individual stakeholders in our region, and maybe one of them I would like to mention here, who is very active and is very involved in this topic. It is the startup Hydrogen Follow, which comes from Chrudim. Labem, and the brothers Holz are behind the startup. So one of them is the owner of a technology company in Chrudim, and the other brother is a researcher from California. Well, he works now in California, and he does research in physics. And those two brothers, they worked on this topic together. Hydrogen for all is this topic, and it is about storage of hydrogen. And this is something that I can't really comprehend. It's from a different world, this physical aspect of it. However, this startup is very active. And what was the advantage of involvement in our INDEET project is that through us, they reached other foreign partners that they wouldn't really find without us. But we presented this very interesting startup to our foreign partners and said, well, this is really innovative. This is something that you could use in your practice. And that's why this cooperation started. And I saw there's a huge potential of INDEET projects here. How to make this cross-border cooperation possible and to create this network of stakeholders, not in just our region only, but also in the surrounding and other foreign regions as well. Well, this is really the proof that INDEET regions can really serve as the motivation for many actions, right? Karel? Well, I've seen some questions on Slido, and I would hate if we would forget them. I'm sorry that I interrupt you like this. So I'll ask a question for you, so maybe it's going to be a difficult one, but it would be a shame if we would forget it. Daniel, don't you think that you are comparing apples and pears when you want to copy the Spanish way? The Spanish approach to renewable power just with regards to the natural.
No, myslím si, že jako za mě takhle jako úplně ne, jo. Myslím si, že mimo to Španělsko.
The repurposing from Spain. Well, the answer is I don't think so. Yeah. I think without the Spanish approach, it would be a shame. But I think in the Czech Republic, our cars can get much older. And I think that there are many people and many companies who are going to face the decision whether to buy a new car, completely brand new, or if they are going to repurpose their car and preserve the value. I'm not really talking about the introduction of LNG and CNG. I think for a business, it doesn't really matter whether it is a CNG or LNG system, or if they transform their car to a different system. But I think if they have a regional support from their local government, I think it's really nice to say, yes, that's a possibility for us. And we consider the decarbonization, I wouldn't say a low-cost solution, of course, but maybe it is a way for people who are going to deal with a gap in the price of a new car and in the value of older cars. And I think that in a hydrogen complex cycle of products circulating, I think we could be a bit pragmatic, that we can invest in a car that has already driven 150 to 200,000 kilometers, that we can help it. Okay, that was a good answer. But you also mentioned a factor which is really important here, a political decision. So if there is a political decision that supports this, that's essential. So political leadership is a must. And I can see that the colleagues in the room next door are finishing almost, but there is another important question. what hinders you that the international project would become the basis for the specific implementation policy in the Czech Republic? Yeah, what is an obstacle or what is a hindrance? Maybe I can respond before my colleagues, but in cooperation with the Ministry of Industry and Trade, and Mrs. Revíková is here, who helps us a lot with the coordination of Hydrogen Valley. Well, we do what we can. We are trying to be very proactive, to find a solution, and we want to motivate our colleagues at the ministries to find their own solution as well. I don't know if I have enough time to answer all of this. I have just maybe 2 minutes, but we are really trying hard. Of course, there are potential barriers, many of them, but we do our best to overcome them. I will just add something because I have a lot of experience from PSEC with this administration there, and energy industry is not something that interests people until there is a crisis and you can't turn your light on. No? And this also involves the entire hydrogen topic. So maybe when the light is off, maybe we will worry. Okay, I think we can continue with this philosophical topic even further, and we could do that, of course, but Karel mentioned it correctly, that the colleagues next door already finished their panel, so maybe we can take a break, maybe have a cup of coffee. I'm going to thank my colleagues now, and thank you for this inspiration coming from those specific projects and partners, and I think we all want to find out more, and you will have the opportunity to get more information. Please approach our colleagues so that you can get the relevant information for you from Olga or someone else. And I hope that we were very specific here and we know what to expect from various Interreg projects. And I would like to conclude. Josef mentioned it really nicely, that some activities or some transfer of information is really useful, and I think it is really important to attract some people. And from our point of view, as project leaders, we want to have some resources for our project, and we want to have a source of know-how. And those projects are quite often connected with a study trip, for example, when you want to draw inspiration from someone else. However, our budgets can be sometimes tight, but those study trips are really important for all of us. And this is the first degree for us to prepare for as the Czech Republic. And I think we have to shift our perception of subsidy projects, because until now we were quite comfortable here in our projects when it came to funding of our hydrogen projects. People brought money to our tables, so to say, figuratively speaking. But now this comfortable time is almost over, and we will just be one of many, many projects that are going to be prepared on a national level, and we need to compete with other European projects. And Interreg projects develop this network of experts and contacts that will be able to bring some inspiration in the network of experts and to show us how the project can be very fast and efficient, and how we can get to the funding in the next programming period, which is actually our main objective and maybe the main message why we should support Interreg projects or be a direct participant of those projects, because you can get very successful. Thank you very much, and I look forward to the rest of the conference. I would like to thank Daniel for his moderation. Thank you all the colleagues. We should have 20 minutes for the break, but well, let's meet here at 10:30. Thank you.